people who we praise and put in front of ourselves, they make millions upon millions of dollars for mere entertainment. And I want you to consider that teachers, people who take the trash in your community and make sure that the community is not stinking, police officers, people who have every right to declare that without them, society would not go on and that it would not flourish correctly, they are paid the least. So last night I produced a presentation where I was talking about the different spirits. In fact, I guess all this week, as I'm bleeding here, I nicked myself while shaving. All this week I have been talking about the different spirits that the devil would use against you. Now, we look at spirits in a funky, funny, kind of hilarious way. In this modern civilization called America, we don't believe that there are devils. We don't believe that there are demons that are working in the background, trying to disturb, trying to destroy, trying to tempt, etc. We don't believe in this Western civilization of America that such things take place. And even if you don't live in America, if you lived in a civilized country where modern technology and different things have come into our existence, so therefore we think that because of this modern technology that the devils are not real and are not working, then you're underneath the influence of demon activity as well. And not just because we are modern in our civilization, but I say this to say that often where there are advances within our society, we tend to shrug the idea of demons to the side. I want you to know that demons are not only alive and well in Africa. I want you to know that demons are not only alive and well in third world countries like Haiti, but he is alive and well anywhere in the world where there are human beings. And there are human beings right there where you are because you're one. The devil is not playing. The devil is not playing games. The devil is not playing games. So this series, I have been helping you to understand the different spirits that the devil is using against us. And I've been going through the book of Galatians chapter 5. Now in the verse 19 of Galatians 5, it goes into detail about some of the fruits of the flesh or the spirits that the devil will use against you. And last night we discussed the one called idolatry. Now, I felt like it was necessary for me to go back through that. And partly because the video I produced last night had some errors in it that I did not catch during the production phase. So I said, you know what, just so that there be more clarity, let me come back at this topic or at this particular item or spirit called idol worship. Now, you remember if you watched that video last night that I talked about the current idols that we as a society have erected. In days of the Bible, when the Bible was being written, idols were somewhat of a different thing than they are now. Somewhat. And I say somewhat because during the Bible days, men and women, different nations would erect idols of stone, gold, rubies, gems, etc. And they would worship these images in the form of God. They would give these inanimate objects features of an animate God. For example, the God of the rain or the God of the sun, the God of the grass and the fields. And if you do your research, you read your Bible, or even if you read history, you will find that these such gods existed. Not that they lived and breathed, because we know that they aren't real. However, these were gods that men made. Why would a man make a god, an idol, for himself to worship? Frankly, because he is not completely satisfied with the God of heaven. And the requirements that God of heaven has made upon you, we are not satisfied with. So in order to shrug our responsibilities to the side when it relates to our relationship with God, we create gods that we control so that we can do what we want to do with a clearer conscience. Now, it is still impossible to do so because conviction still comes to settle in. However, man over history has sought to bring about an idea of another God or gods whom they controlled the narrative so that they can do what they wanted to do without feeling guilt, shame, or conviction. See, God is a requirement type God. He makes requirements of his people. He is God, the creator, and he has every right to. But when we don't want to do what he's asked, so then we go and we worship other gods, gods that we control the narratives of. So when last night I started talking about some of the current gods that we are worshiping, I made it clear that today's society has an affinity for entertainers, athletes, movie stars, actors, etc., etc. Even senators and different men and women of government and parliament are somewhat today superstars. And these have become mainly the modern idol that we worship. And I talked a lot last night about this in the presentation that I produced last night, which I've seen that 10 of you have shared it. Over 200 of you have viewed it already, although it has had some flaws in the production. So I praise God. I'm just coming back and sharing more because I felt it was necessary. Now, I said last night that modern idols are more so the modern entertainer, the modern athlete. You look at what society has done with people who have gifts and talents, people who we praise and put in front of ourselves. They make millions upon millions of dollars for mere entertainment. And I want you to consider that teachers, people who take the trash in your community and make sure that the community is not stinking, police officers, people who have every right to declare that without them, society would not go on and that it would not flourish correctly, they are paid the least. And when you stop and think about entertainers or the modern day idol, these people are paid an exuberant amount of money just so that they can entertain you. Now, let's just be real. I love football. I'm not going to lie. I am a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm not going to lie about that. And God has had to bring into my conscience the reality that there are things that I don't need to, as a Christian, involve myself in. And when I stop and I think about the amount of money that a quarterback in the NFL can make, the amount of money a wide receiver, a tight end, a defensive end, an offensive lineman can make in the NFL just for playing a game. And then you look at the salary of a police officer that's putting his life on the line every day for the well-being of society. Which one is most important? If society didn't have football, would we still be able to live? But if society had no police officers, how comfortable would it be in your neighborhood? How comfortable would you be knowing that there was no law and that people could trample on the law? Because they already do it and they're police officers. Imagine if there were none. However, we're paying athletes, entertainers, movie stars, daytime soap opera actors, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to entertain us. Now, again, I wanted you to know, because I said it yesterday, that there are certain of these entertainers or modern day idols that we begun to worship, that when you look at their body of work, they are advertising many things in their acting. They're advertising many things on stage when they're performing. They're advertising many things when they're in person or in character, rather, during their films, etc. And those things aren't necessarily attributes of a Christian, because when they are hired to portray something in a film, or when they're hired on because of their gift of singing, dancing, or whatever, they are hired based on the ability in which they have to entertain you. So they must follow a script. They must follow a line. They must follow someone else's agenda. And the agenda is of the person who's paying them. So if they say, look, we want you to do X, Y, Z. Now, their religious beliefs may say, that's not something you should do. But because of the love of money and the desire to make those funds and to be placed in a position of worship so that people can worship them and idolize them so that their names would ring bells around the world, they may often neglect their responsibilities to the church and do what the world has asked them to do for the love of money. I talked to you about a singer who, when they perform, although they have called themselves a Christian, when they're performing, they have dancers with them on stage that are dressed up in women's attire, although they be men. And they've got full beards, they've got the 5 o'clock shadow. You can tell they're men. But they've got full makeup on, dresses in some situations, high heels in some situations, and they're strutting themselves on stage like a woman. But this particular entertainer claims that they love the Lord, but they seemingly are advocating homosexual behavior. I mentioned that last night. Now, I want us to bring it down to a more practical terminology, because not everybody that loves the Lord pays attention to entertainment, sports, movie stars, actors, etc. There are idols in your life that have taken the place of worshiping God. And you know, a husband or wife can be an idol. Did you know that your children, you can set them up to be idols in your mind? Did you know that you can idolize your job? You can idolize your education. You can idolize your car. You can idolize your home. You can idolize your physique and how good you look, how big your muscles may be. You can idolize your beauty and how well you are able to fix your hair or edge up your beard for you fellas, how well you're able to fix your makeup and fix your hair, or for you ladies that wear extensions and weaves, how well you're able to do those things. We idolize more than just entertainers, because the idea behind idol worship is something that takes the attention off of God and fixates it so strictly on something else that it then in its nature becomes an idol, because you're putting so much of your attention and focus into it. And like I said, you can make a husband or wife an idol. Some of the things that we ought to have in life, if our attentions are so caught up on them, they become idols. Many of us are concerned with making a name for ourselves, with getting more degrees and education and making more money. This idea becomes an idol to us because it consumes all of our time. We make drugs an idol. I know that for a time in my life, I smoked marijuana so vehemently that there was hardly a sober moment. And then when I caught on to cocaine, I was snorting cocaine so frequently that there was hardly a sober moment. These things became an idol to me. Jesus is saying to you in the book of Galatians that the spirit of the devil in the form of idol worship has come into the lives of many Christians. And that's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the world. I'm talking to professed Christians. Why do I say anything to the world? They have made their choice, and they know that they do not fathom a God in their thinking. But we as Christians have said that we want to serve the Lord. Unfortunately, many of our leaders are not teaching us a simple "thus saith the Lord." We are compromising. It's okay to listen to this actress or watch this actress's films. Oh, it's okay to watch this actor's films. He loves the Lord, because when he's off camera and he's being interviewed, or he or she, they talk about how much they love the Lord. And again, I am not here to judge whether or not they love him or not. I am here to judge the fruit of their life. That's as if I worked for Coca-Cola. Let's use this example. And while working for Coca-Cola, I'm employed to wear their garments. But because I love Pepsi products, I'll wear the Coca-Cola uniform because I know that that's how I get paid. But when I'm shelving the Coca-Cola products in the stores, which they paid me to do, I'm telling everybody that comes to the cooler to grab that Coke product, hey bro, I know you see me working for Coke, but you really want to go get that Pepsi because that's the best. That's confusion, because Coke is paying you. Pepsi ain't paying you. You are living and breathing off of Coca-Cola's money, yet you're advocating Pepsi. Does that make any sense? Many actors and actresses and athletes, they're working for Coca-Cola, but they're advertising Pepsi. Do you catch what I'm saying? They're saying that they love the Lord. So in essence, they're saying that they represent Jesus in their personal life. But when they go to work and put on their uniform, they're working for Pepsi Cola. They say they love Coke, but they're putting on Pepsi's uniform. And they're advertising for Pepsi, making money for Pepsi, while underneath this pretentious spirit, they're advertising Coca-Cola. I hope that analogy made sense. Many of the people we worship and praise, they worship God privately, but in the open, they're advertising another God by the things that they advocate, by the things that they say, by the things that they do in their films, in their music, in their acting gigs, in their performances on stage, etc., etc. And therefore, we need to beware and be wise and to pay attention to the workings of the enemy, as he is very slick and would have God's people deceived into thinking that it's okay if I patronize certain people or certain activities because they talk about God on the sideline. Look, brothers and sisters, there are idols in our lives. The video game system can be an idol because you put so much of your time and effort into it. Like I said, your husband or your wife can be an idol because you put so much time and effort into them. I'm not saying that certain things are sinful. What I'm saying is that some things we put our attentions into them, and as a result of putting our attentions into them, we forget our allegiances to God. My name is Andre Battles, and I had a dream 22 years ago at the age of 18. And in this dream, God told me that I would do great things. I've shared the details of the dream before, but today I just want you to know that for very many years after that dream, I ran from God. I didn't care to fulfill what it was that I knew at that time to be my destiny. Cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, promiscuity, sleeping around with different women. Even while I was married to my ex-wife, I was a cheat, I was a flirt. It didn't matter to me that God had made requirements of my life. It didn't matter that the Bible had given me instruction as to how to live. It didn't matter. I was going to carve out my own path, and that's exactly what I was doing. In the year 2017, I lost my leg. And even then, I did not stop long enough to truly focus my life on the Lord like I should have. But due to His grace and His mercy, He kept me, and it allowed me to find the space and the time to consider the life that I was living, and then to surrender myself to Christ. And so as of last year, 2022, I have been surrendered to God in a way that I've never been surrendered to Him before. I praise Him for the mighty work that He's doing in my life. And now that I am clear of the drugs and all the other foolishness that I was doing at one time, I've made it my purpose to fulfill that calling, to bring to life that dream. For in that dream, I walked into the RCA Dome in Indianapolis, which is the former football stadium of the Indianapolis Colts, and I was there to preach a sermon, kind of like how you would see Billy Graham would be in these concert areas and stadiums preaching to thousands of people. And as I walked into the stadium, I walked up to a pulpit that was in the middle of the field. And there were thousands of people in the stands, and another additional thousands on the field right there in front of the podium where I was standing, and I began to preach. I am determined now to make that dream a reality. And by God's grace, I have been impressed to build a church here in the Huntsville, Alabama area. Now you can get to know me by listening to me. I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to say that I was an addict, that I stole, that I lied, that I cheated. And so therefore, if you want to find a reason not to bless this ministry, why don't you use those as your excuse? But I'm telling you that those were the things I used to do, and that God has come into my life and changed me. I would like for your support. I would like for you to do more than just watch these videos. I would like for you to do more than just share them. I would like for you to be willing to share your funds with this ministry so that we can build the church. For $50 donation per month, I am prepared to give you a coaching program that I have created here shortly about a month ago. And in this coaching program, you will receive every day a video tailor-made to your special needs so that as you walk with the Lord, you would be encouraged and inspired to walk with Him in a way that you have never walked with Him before. That's $50 per month. Many of us have other expenses in life that we don't need, monies that we're spending on things that do not benefit us. If you've been blessed by this ministry, then step out on faith and take a line out of the book of Proverbs which says, life and death is in your tongue. So speak life over your financial situation and say, you know what? I can and I will. And watch how God comes into your life and blesses you. Now, let me just say this. If I'm not the minister that's been blessing you, but there's another one who has, step out on faith and bless them, because you will get the bigger blessing as a result of your faithfulness. Because the Bible does say to bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. Now, you may be thinking, well, the storehouse is just a conference body of people who go to certain churches. The body of Christ is not a building. It's not a conference. It is wherever the work of Christ is being done. Wherever there are human beings, that is the storehouse. And here, right now, is one. So step out on faith and bless this ministry as the Lord has blessed you through this ministry. Text me at 423-347-9422 and ask me how you can bless us. Cash App, PayPal. You can even mail in a blessing to our address. Or if you just need prayer, contact me and we'll start talking with you, sharing with you, and praying with you. Hit this share button. Be blessed, and remember, Jesus is coming soon.